Hey, I'm Stavi.
And I'm Buns, and this is BunzStavi, a podcast about whatever.
Thanks for coming in again this week, guys. This is our second episode, and we actually have a subject this week, so we're going to be able to talk for hopefully more than 8.5 minutes rather than our last podcast. And we are going to talk about a band called The Wonder Years.
Oh, yeah.
And their new album that just came out on September 4th of this year, 2015, No Closer to Heaven. If you don't know anything about the Wonder Years, they came out swinging from a South Philly basement in 2005 and dropped their first LP, Get Stoked on It, in 2007. Their first album is kind of like lighthearted pop punk. It's a lot of silly shit just on an album.
Yeah.
They followed that up with a more serious album called The Upsides in 2010. Then their third LP, Suburbia I've Given Up On. What? The full name of it is so long that it's ridiculous. Suburbia I've Given You All and Now Nothing. Then they toured that for a couple of years, followed up by 2013's critically acclaimed The Greatest Generation. And the follow-up this year, No Closer to Heaven, that I said came out on September 4th, just a week ago.
If you haven't seen the album cover for their very first album, Get Stoked on It, I highly suggest looking it up because it's the Captain Crunch Man making out with the Kool-Aid Man.
But the Kool-Aid Man's a lady.
Yeah, and the Kool-Aid Man's a lady. I don't know if like the Kool-Aid Man is just actually a lady on there, if it's like a transvestite Kool-Aid pitcher or not.
I like to think it's a transvestite Kool-Aid pitcher.
That's what I like to
Captain
think
Crunch
it is too.
is gay.
And Captain Crunch could be gay.
It's 2015.
Yeah, it's legal now.
It's legal now. Jesus. All right, but we're gonna go ahead and jump in. This new album was announced back in, I want to say, July of this year, while
Probably
they were doing the while they were on the Vans Warped Tour this year, and they dropped
Cardinals.
They dropped the first single called Cardinals when they announced the album, and the opening single, I remember hearing it and looking at Buns, and I was like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
This album's gonna be insane.
Yeah.
They came out with a music video and the track.
And like you could pre-order everything on the same day.
So they came out with all that like regular, every band kind of does now. Then a few weeks later, they dropped a more serious song from the album. Let Buns tell you about that song.
Afterwards, they came out with a track called Cigarettes and Saints. And first of all, I'd like to say it's absolutely fantastic. I know how they blame me. I know what you'd say. You tell me it was your fault. I should put all my arrows away. I'm shattering. The peculiar thing about that track is there's no chorus or verses or hook or anything like that. It's just all like solid, amazing from front to start.
See, I remember that track first came out. You and our friend Jamie and our friend John were like creaming your jeans and you're like freaking out. And I thought like, that's a pretty good track, but I thought Cardinals was like really hard to top as like their first single. And I think that all kind of changed when we saw them back on September 2nd at a record store in Columbus called Magnolia Thunder Pussy.
Yeah.
They did like a string of acoustic shows to promote the new album, and during the show, the last two songs, they asked everybody to put their phones away, and they played two tracks off the new album. The other one called what's the third single called? I Don't Like Who I Was Then, that we're gonna talk about here in just a minute. And then they closed the acoustic set with Cigarettes and Saints. And going into that, it's one of those songs that starts a little slower and then picks up. So I was thinking like, man, how are they gonna like do this song acoustic? I'm really interested to see. And I tell you, that song, acoustic live, something that Dan Campbell, he puts in like this amazing performance, and he just like popped up. The whole, like we're in a record store, everybody's sitting down and like watching this acoustic show happen, and Soupy, Dan Campbell, his nickname is Soupy if you didn't know, pops up and he's just building this, like, it's not really a chorus, but like
Just if you could call it anything, you'd call it probably like the breakdown.
the break of the song, and then it kind of slows back down, and then it picks back up, and there's just so much anger and energy and aggression on this track that is just really, I feel like full band doesn't even do it justice, but sing it or just hearing the track, like the recorded studio track, doesn't do it justice to like see it live.
Yeah.
And see how emotionally involved this band gets with this song.
Yeah. Fun fact actually about that particular show, Stavi here was literally the first person to get that album legally, like ever, because we got the CD 2 days early.
At least in this area, and they had him sitting behind the counter. I was like, hey, can we fucking have this? And the guy was like, oh yeah, I guess. And so he gave it to me, and
yeah,
then
like 4 hours before the show even started.
And then Dan later was like, I guess you guys have your CDs now. You weren't really supposed to get those, but fuck it.
I guess you guys get your CDs like 2 days early.
Which was it was pretty cool, and then like it kind of dawned on me I was the first person to pick it up. But I can't say if that's like a for sure.
Because we saw people on Instagram who had like
their pre-orders came in early.
That's probably what it was. Okay, so Stavi, you were the first person to get it in a record store.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty badass. And
that
would mean Jamie and I are the second and third.
Yeah. Alright, and then, like we said, we're going to talk about the third single that came out called I Don't Like Who I Was Then. It came out
probably like 2 weeks before the album came out.
Yeah, I think it dropped a week or two, like you said, a week or two before the album came out, and it was streamed via alternativepress.com. That's the only way you could listen to it when it first came out. And it's kind of, I don't know, how would you describe that song?
When I first heard it, I thought that it kind of sounded like, maybe not even I don't know, it's so hard to describe, but it kind of sounded like almost like not pop punk. It almost just kind of sounded like just like alternative rock that you'd hear like actually on the radio like 10 years ago or so. That's just kind of how I thought about it.
Yeah, it's to say like in the style of where it falls in like the Wonder Years, I feel like the only other album it could have come out on, or like collection it could have came out on, it might have been able to slide by on Sleeping on Trash, which was a collection of songs between 2005 and 2010. And that really, and it almost doesn't even fit on there because that's at the same time where the Wonder Years were, as they've been quoted saying, like a joke band. And then in 2010 when they got serious, they kind of quit joking around all the time and made some really serious music and kind of like redefined and shot off a new sound for pop punk, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's definitely not something I expected the Wonder Years to release. It has the same, like, it's heavy. It has like loud guitars and catchy choruses.
The drum beat is kind of like, it's just like a pop punk drum beat. But like the chorus, the way that he sings the chorus is just kind of like, I don't know, it's just different. Like I like it. I like that song a lot, but it doesn't really sound a whole lot like when I think the Wonder Years, it's going to take me a while to adjust to knowing that song as a Wonder Years song.
I feel like that's how it's going to be for me for a lot of this album in comparison to like The Greatest Gen, Suburbia, I've Given You All, Now Nothing, and The Upsides, and especially Get Stoked On It, because Get Stoked On It, you can play that for somebody and be like, that's fucking Wonder Years? That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good stuff, but definitely like this album is definitely a bigger transition into something different for them, because I feel like all their other albums leading up to this one were all Dan Campbell took like personal narratives and wrote them into an album. While, like for example, the upsides, the recurring theme through that is I'm not sad anymore. I'm just tired of this place.
Yeah.
So, and from interviews and stuff, we know that that song is about Dan was in a pretty dark place, and he's like, shit, I'm only uh, 24 years old at the time,
Yeah.
and I can't be this sad. I can't let the world get to me already.
Yeah.
While, and he put that into an album and like a serious subject, and it kind of got them their first little bit of attention.
Yeah.
And then Suburbia is kind of like along the same path. What's the recurring theme on Suburbia?
I think Suburbia is kind of like the same thing, but instead of like picking yourself up and seeing, stop being so sad, I think Suburbia is more like you've done the first step of realizing that your life isn't so shitty, I guess, and like realizing, hey, I've got a pretty good thing going here. I think Suburbia is more about I've realized this and now it's time to put it into action.
And you can kind of see that from the opening track on Suburbia, Came Out Swinging.
Yeah.
It's like, here I am, I fucked up, I was sad,
Yeah.
but I'm coming out swinging, I'm ready to go. I've been sad and I'm ready to get better.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of this album is kind of directed towards. I don't feel like it's a sequel so much to the Upsides.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the next step, naturally, like in a process.
Yeah.
That album has some bigger hits like Came Out Swinging, Local Man Ruins Everything, my personal favorite, My Life is a Pigeon, and Coffee Eyes. And then 2013 is The Greatest Generation, which is easily their probably like their biggest album. Like people were like, they kind of had a smaller fan base, and they're like, oh, have you guys heard the Wonder Years? They're really cool. And then The Greatest Generation came out, and everybody that was like into alternative music and pop punk was like, shit, have you heard the Wonder Years?
Yeah.
And this album just kind of, it's amazing.
It's amazing from start to finish.
It's a 5 out of 5 album, but it still kind of has that recurring theme of like having to get past something and having to deal with something.
If you read like the inner notes that they wrote, I'm not really sure if Dan wrote them by himself. I'd have to have the booklet, or if like the band kind of collectively came together to make a statement. You're supposed to read this little, I guess like a little entry that's in the booklet before you listen to the album, and it's just saying about how he says in interviews that the greatest generation is that there's not a particular generation that is quote unquote the greatest.
But the album name comes from a book written about the generation that were like kids during the Great Depression.
Yeah,
it's just like a clever
that grew up into like didn't really grow up, but they were the people who fought in World War II and things like that. But he says that there is no actual generation that has been the greatest, but he says that every generation should strive to be the greatest. So it also says like you've got to put aside a lot of petty shit that you think is like such like a big deal, and if you take a step back and look at it, you could be like, man, that really wasn't such a big deal. I've got to focus on the bigger picture now. That's kind of what I get out of the Greatest Generation.
And the Greatest Generation, I think, just sum it up, is kind of about like, if you get knocked down, you got to get back up again.
Yeah.
And something bad might happen, but that doesn't mean that you have to quit trying.
Yeah.
And then there's No Closer to Heaven.
Oh boy.
Which, it's been out for a week. In preparation of like this episode, plus being a fan of the Wonder Years, I've easily listened to this album 25 times front to back. Just in preparation to like talk about this album. And I still can't really tell you what this album's like theme is.
I think I've got a pretty good interpretation of it.
Shoot.
I've noticed that a lot of the themes in it, just kind of like things he talks about, have to do with like dying and death and like super crazy depressing stuff. And in the videos, there's a couple videos related to people passing away or dying of something. And
like the Cardinals video.
Yeah.
Dan is like carrying a friend that looks to have like drowned or something, and he's
Yeah.
like running with him, like he's unconscious, and he's like running him to an ambulance.
And then the
Cigarettes and Saints.
Cigarettes and Saints video is a woman, and she's contemplating committing suicide, and then towards the end of it, she kind of gets like a
Spoiler.
yeah, spoiler. She gets kind of a like, what the fuck am I doing type deal, and she just kind of decides not to, and she jumps in the river, and when she comes back up, she kind of cracks like a smile, and the video's over.
Yeah. See, like that video has a happier ending. Cardinals has an ending that I'm just like, well, shit, all right.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, oh, they're gonna like do a series of videos to explain this video. No, like it was just random and sad and weird, but it was excellent. I enjoyed the video a lot along with the track.
Yeah.
But a lot of this album is just kind of about like honestly, it's just like a lot of it's about like just really sad shit like death and just dealing with it and like just your mental psyche like being sad, but at the same time it's in such like a loud and energetic way that it's like shit, man, maybe I need to like think about that before I do it.
Yeah.
Kind of like Cardinals, like you can fuck up, like you can fuck up a friendship pretty bad, you know. But if you call me back or let me in, I swear I'll never let you down again. And like I know the devils you've been fighting with, like that kind of shit. Like you got to be there for your friend, you got to be there for them, and even if you fuck up, you can still be there for them. But then there's like this. I mean, it all kind of shares the same theme of like death or prevailing or like, trying to be successful in a bad situation. I really don't know the theme of this album. As many times as I've listened to it, it's good, but I don't know how to describe it. I think maybe Bunz put it in a good way, but I don't really know. And I think that's that. We did pick a few tracks off the album that we each preferred. And I'm gonna let Bunz start that off, talking about one of the tracks towards the end of the album called "Thanks for the Ride."
Thanks for the Ride. I like it because it's if you listen to it, but you don't like really listen to the lyrics. If you just kind of like, oh, this is a cool song, and you just kind of cruising along to it or whatever.
And it's just kind of catchy.
It's catchy, and it's got like a upbeat tempo. But then if you actually like sit down, listen to the lyrics, I read them while I was listening to it like online. Like if you really listen to the lyrics, that song is so like crazy sad. Like the first time I heard it and like really heard it, listening to the lyrics, looking at them, I was like blown away with like, at least I thought that the song was like, I was like, holy shit, this is like making me tear up a little bit. And I've taken that it's, I think it's about a man who wanted to have a life with a woman that he loved and she killed herself. That's what I've kind of taken out of it. I could be wrong, but it's such an upbeat song that if you didn't listen to the lyrics, you'd never know it's about that. And that's my favorite track on the album.
I have a couple of different songs picked out as like my favorite track on the album. I think I'm gonna ask my friend Jamie to talk about this song with me. The song is called "A Song for Patsy Cline," and this song is the third track on the album, and it's really catchy and it's really good, and it's just about like how hard it can be to like let somebody walk away and let somebody get away from you, and it's just a really it's an upbeat song, like it still has that consistently sad theme throughout the entire track, but overall it's a pretty good song. It's just really catchy. There's a lot of emotion in it, which I think is one of the best things about the Wonder Years is they put so much emotion and like just raw energy into like almost all of their songs, and you can tell that like I wrote this from my heart to your heart almost, which is kind of some pansy shit to say, but it's true. But I'm gonna let Jamie talk about it a little bit.
The thing I like about the song most is it starts out kind of mellow and it's just like kind of easy listening, but as the song like progresses, the chorus picks up and it gets the chorus is just fantastic. Like it's hard to put in words exactly like how the chorus like hits me like personally, but I don't know, just it's hard to watch you walk away hearing Soupy like just yell those words. You I don't know. The thing is like you know what he's talking about, but you don't know what he's talking about. Like you personally know what he's feeling, but you don't know exactly what he's talking about. So
That's the thing with that too is like as a group, of friends, we're all like pretty substantial like Wonder Years fans, which is why it was so hard. I'm like trying to do an unbiased review of this album and
Yeah.
everything. And I do have my bad things to say about the album that I'll get to here shortly. But it's like you look up to a person like when they're in that spotlight, and like it's like with any celebrity or anything, like I'm like, wow, that's Dan Soupy Campbell. He's like saying, but at the same time, I know he's fucked up just like I'm fucked up. I think that's like why it's so like it's relatable, but it's also like, oh man, Soupy, are you all right?
yeah, dude, we're not Southpaw Bucks. We're just fucked up kids.
Fuck yeah. If you didn't catch that reference, it's from Local Man Ruins Everything
Suburbia.
off of Suburbia, the third full length album. And do you have anything else to say about Patsy Cline?
I think I pretty much got everything out there that I wanted to.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
Another song that I really admire that's on this album is called Stained Glass Ceilings. And part of the reason I really love this song is because it kind of shares, it's almost like a political song, but it's not really a political song. But it has some like, how am I supposed to fit in with like this society that you're supposed to fit in with? But at the same time, it's about like going places. It's a good track. It's not like the best track on the album, but when I hear it, I just really get into it. And it has a really great guest vocal on it, and that is by Jason. I don't know how to pronounce it right, so hopefully, yeah, fuck it. Jason Alon Butler from a band called Let Live, and it kind of brings a more like a screaming type vibe to like the song. But the way that it transitions from Dan Campbell to Jason Alon Butler from Let Live back to Dan Campbell, it's just so smooth, and the way it's executed is just really excellent. And he's just yelling things like, it's something we're all born into. Now I know what's in a name, not just my father. 3/5 of a man make half of me. Why should I bother? Merchants of misery stacking. Merchants of misery stacking the deck. Then it goes back into Dan Campbell, kind of saying that I don't have to fit into like your general role of society, and I don't have to be like your manly man of society with fuck your John Waynes and fuck your God complex. Back into Jason Butler. I have everything in front of me, but there is far enough to touch those fever dreams they call America. I just feel like politically this song is like kind of like where I fall. I kind of don't. I've never been like a really like political person, but at the same time, kind of not like gonna give all of myself to like I'm dedicated to this country. When I haven't ever left America, I like to explore and stuff. Like I love being American. I will clarify, I'm not like a commie or a fascist or whatever or a Nazi. I love being an American, but at the same time, I think the way that people get into like, you're goddamn right, I'm an American.
Yeah.
Tony Romo. I just, I kind of like how they kind of represented it on this song, but I just think it's a pretty solid track. And then I also want to talk about the closing track, "No Closer to Heaven," which is the title track from the album. It's an acoustic song that kind of has a Aaron West type vibe, but also kind of has like an indie vibe to it because it's just Dan and a guitar.
I'm digging up the bones, the failures are buried. I'm pulling down my white flags in various states Years of sun bleached and gray. We just saw them all together. Good fashion bones into a frame. Tie the flags on the string. Stretched across until their wings. I'm no closer to.
And it's just a good slow acoustic jam, and it's a good closer to the album, which I think the Wonder Years just on the last two albums have really excelled at. On the Greatest Gen, there was a song that was a medley of like I think every song on the album, almost every song on the album, called "I Just Want to Sell at My Funeral," and then this one, the title track "No Closer to Heaven."
I Just Want to Sell at My Funeral is a perfect closing track, at least to me. It's so good. Like I can't think of an album that has a better closing track than that one because it just wraps everything up in like a nice neat little package.
I think what's great about it's a medley. It's like every song. It's like man, I don't see like some of those songs didn't really tie together. Those songs fucking like tie together, and they show it in like this beautiful way. Like the first verse of this song and the chorus are like their own thing, and it drops right into like the first track on the album called "There There," and then just transfers to like out different tracks on that album, which is really excellent.
Yeah.
I wish they would have like attempted something like that with this album, but they did it so well on the last album. I'm not like upset that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And they have a pretty solid closer on this album. But like I said, it's kind of got like an Aaron West vibe. If you don't know who Aaron West is, that's Dan Campbell's side project called Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties.
Also amazing album.
Also, yeah, very good album.
Definitely check that out.
Definitely, yeah. If you have the time, check it out. It's
We Don't Have Each Other.
That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties. We Don't Have Each Other.
Yeah.
It's a good album.
Listen to it front to back. It's a concept album. So.
Yeah, it's a concept album. Don't shuffle it. Listen to that. Like Bun said, front to back for sure. And now like those are the songs we really liked, but at the same time, you know, most albums have some songs that you might not like.
Yeah.
For example, like this song has those bigger songs like we talked about, Cardinals, a song for Patsy Cline, I Don't Like Who I Was Then. It's fair to say they very carefully chose the singles that they were going to put out for this song.
Yeah.
For this album, and the ones that they picked are really good.
Yeah.
All of those three songs are really excellent. A Song for Patsy Cline was not a single, but it's also just a really good song. The thing about another thing going just back to Patsy Cline, it doesn't have like your typical like 01 pop punk sound, but it has the typical like 01, like not 01, but typical like pop punk layout with like loud, like kind of it starts out mellow, but then it has like loud verses, catchy choruses, and it's just a pretty good. Just like here's a pop punk song for this album. That's just a good song. That's like I think that's what I like about it the most. It's not super complicated, but at the same time, it's just like good out. It's just a good song for the album. But then there's songs on this album like "The Bluest Things on Earth."
I actually really like that song.
And well, it's not like a terrible song, but at the same time, it's just like I feel like it could have been more, and it feels like it could like if they started trying to do like closing songs halfway through this album.
Maybe
like these big build-up songs with these loud choruses and loud verses. When you know the progression of like an album, the beauty of like The Greatest Generation, that song starts soft, gets heavier, goes soft again, and then ends heavy as fuck. Which is like what's great about that song is like just a lot of emotion. I think the tracks are laid out really well on that album. While with this album, I feel like they wrote songs that are like just too big, and they should have like taken it down a notch for a couple of these tracks.
maybe
That I wanted so badly to be Brave. I think it's a pretty solid track, but at the same time, it's not my favorite track, and it's not what I expect from the Wonder Years to an extent.
maybe.
You got anything to say on that one?
I don't really. I've listened to this album quite a bit, but I haven't listened to it enough to place the songs to their titles yet.
It's kind of like, you know, most albums like they pick out songs. They pick out songs like, oh, here's the build up, and then usually middle songs aren't as good, and then they close with like some pretty solid songs.
Yeah.
And it's just that kind of follows that typical like album role. Like none of the songs are like bad necessarily,
Yeah.
but not some of the songs don't live up to like what the other songs are, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it is everybody has their own opinion on this album. Like some people, this is gonna be their album of the year. Some people, it's gonna be their least favorite album of the year. And for people like me, it's gonna land in my top 5, but it's not gonna be my number 1.
Yeah.
And then, but like I said, just kind of like there's a couple of those middle songs, but overall it's a pretty solid album. Another song worth mentioning is a song for Ernest Hemingway. It's got kind of like this weird. The opening to it is just kind of like this weird 50s, just like, ooh, like I can't sing, but it just kind of has like a cool opening for it, and just kind of plays out through the chorus and everything. And I really appreciate that. But I don't know. It's a solid album. It's not everything I expected it to be from the Wonder Years, but that's not fair on like my part to say that because of the Greatest Generation being such a good album, I expected them to follow it up with an even better album, and that's like expecting Green Day to follow up Dookie with an even better album, you know?
Well,
But no, like imagine being like alive in '94, Dookie comes out, Green Day announces they're gonna have another album, and you're like, oh shit, and then that album is not as good as Dookie.
all right, yeah, that's fair.
The next 4 or 5 albums aren't as good as Dookie.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get into that right now. We're not talking about Green Day.
How many albums? Oh, I just have to say this. How many albums were there in between Dookie and American
I
Idiot?
think there were 4.
There were 4.
I think 4 or 5.
Because to me,
Insomniac, Nimrod.
Dookie and American Idiot are about equal to me. I think they're both amazing.
There's Insomniac, Nimrod, Warning, Shenanigans, and then American Idiot. So there's 4.
Yeah, there's 4. Okay, I can see where.
And I'm one of the few people in the world where I'm like, dude, those are all solid albums.
I like them. They're just not as good as American Idiot or Dookie.
Yeah, just like 21st Century Breakdown is not as good as American Idiot. But we're not getting into that because this is not a Green Day episode.
All right, that's fair.
But anyway, just to wrap up the No Closer to Heaven segment of our show today, I'm gonna go ahead and rate it 4 Stavies out of 5 Stavies because it's a good album. It holds up. It's what I expect from. It's not what I wanted from the Wonder Years, but it's what I expect from them right now. And I'm sure they're gonna continue to make great albums for like the next however many years. And I'm sure I'll always buy them. I'll always go see them live. It's a show that I'll never miss. If they come to our area, I'm not missing that show.
Yeah.
But for me, it's only 4 stars, which is out of 5. It's not. That's pretty good. 4 out of 5. What about you, Buns?
I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. But I guarantee you, in a few episodes, I'll probably come back with like a redo of this vote, and don't be surprised if I come back and give it a 5 out of 5, because that's what I would have done with Greatest Generation.
You're so indecisive about things.
I'm sorry, I'm indecisive about this.
You're a person that you like to let things grow on you.
I do have to let things grow on me.
All right.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
when Greatest Generation came out, I picked it up probably about a month after it came out, and I listened to it. The first song I ever heard by the Wonder Years was "The Devil in My Bloodstream,"
which is excellent.
Amazing song, which is off of that album. And I picked it up and I listened to it, and I only really like listened to 3 or 4 songs, and I didn't really give the rest of the songs a whole lot of thought until, probably like 4 weeks later when I let a couple of my friends borrow the CD and they got crazy into it. So then they gave it back and I really gave it a listen, and I was just really blown away with how I didn't give a shit about the rest of the album, and I listened to it. Damn, it was amazing. So I would have given that one probably like 3.5 stars when I picked it up, and then a few weeks later I listened to it again, and from then till now I'm giving it a 5 out of 5.
I think the thing with that album, maybe like in your situation, like for me, the Wonder Years were presented to me by my friend Allie, and like we were just kind of sitting in class one day, and she like, I went to that Pioneering Career and Technology Center, and we kind of got away with getting on YouTube sometimes and just listening to like full albums while we did our work. And she just kind of was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Wonder Years?" And I was like, "No." And she like took my keyboard, went to YouTube, put in like the Greatest Generation, was like, listen to that shit front to back. Like I didn't have like a single that I like played on repeat for like a month or two and then listened to the rest of the album. I sat down, took that album in over and over, and then started picking out singles, which is not usually what I do. But I don't think that's what anybody does, because that's the point of singles. It's like, here's a song, like it's a teaser for the rest of the album. Listen to it for like 2 months, and then you can have the rest of the album. But I think if I would have been in your situation, I maybe would have played like the shit out of that one song and then come back and had to rate it something else after the album grew on me. But with the build up for No Closer to Heaven, the last couple months, I was all into just sitting down and taking that whole album in over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think that's gonna wrap it up for the No Closer to Heaven segment today. Let us know what you think. Do you think this album's a 5-star album, a 1-star album, a 2-star album, an 83-star album, a star with 2 R's album? Let us know. Tweet us. Put it on Facebook. Tell us how wrong we are. Tell us how right we are. Use your power of the internet to be ridiculously mean or ridiculously nice to us about this album review. And I think that would be great of you. We'd love to hear from you. And moving on to the next part of our show today, I'm going to let Buns talk about a new album that came out the same day as the new Wonder Years album.
It did. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the band Fidlar, Fidlar. Probably not a whole lot of you, but give it a while because they came out with a new album, like Stavi said, on the same day as the Wonder Years did. They their album titles aren't very creative. Their first one is called Fidlar, and this one's called Fidlar 2, spelled Too. And the way that I describe that band to my friends is imagine like the Beach Boys and the Sex Pistols like mixed together into a band. They're just very beachy, but they're also like really raw and aggressive. A lot of their songs are just about drinking and doing drugs and shit. It's
being 19 and angsty as fuck.
And I kind of gathered like a fascination with the first album because it was something that I'd never heard before, especially the song No Waves. The songs No Waves and Cheap Beer were like, they were about the only 2 songs I listened to for a good solid week after I discovered that album. Well, then when I heard they were coming out with a new album, it was actually like a week before they dropped it. I'm sure they announced it, but I didn't even hear about it until like a week before it came out. And when it finally dropped, I was in kind of a shitty situation between listening to No Closer to Heaven and listening to Fidlar 2. And I listened to No Closer to Heaven, and then I had kind of a long drive one day, and I just plugged in Fidlar 2, and holy shit, it's amazing. I really just kind of want to talk about like the first 3 tracks to kind of conserve some time, but the opening song is called 40 Ounce on Repeat, which when I looked at the track title, I actually kind of thought it was going to be like a ripoff of a Sublime song, but I listened to it and it's just got this like driving, just like angry like tone, and then all of a sudden it just kind of cuts into like this slow, almost just kind of like whiny chorus, but like whiny in a good way. And I don't know, it's just a great song. And then it leads into this song called Punks. And that song, I'm in a really weird situation with that too. It's my least favorite song, but it's also one of my favorite songs on the album. And I don't really know how to describe that. But then the third track on the album is easily my favorite one. And that one is called West Coast. And that one, it's just this song. It's just kind of about like saying like fuck everything and just giving up on, you know, he's talking about I'm having a shitty time at school, I'm failing, screw that, I hate my job, I hate my life, and he just about driving around and just saying, you know, screw everything that sucks, and just driving around with your friends and just having a good time, and in his case, traveling up the West Coast. And it's just a good song. Like, it's not even hard to listen to. It's not super, like, abrasive punk rock. It's just so good. And for that album, that's going to wrap it up just for my segment about that album. I just highly suggest it. And Stavi's got some stuff he wants to suggest. But for me, that album is definitely going to get probably 4.5 Stavis.
Right on.
4.5 Stavis. Pass it back.
All right, guys, and I just want to talk about, before we quit talking about music and move on to something else, I was going to talk to you guys about something that kind of flew under my radar, and I found out about just sitting at work this week while I was sitting at my desk at work, and I was just flipping through Spotify. The front bottoms from a punk band from, I don't even know if I want to call them punk. They're like grassroots punk. It's so weird.
It's like indie punk, but like not indie punk.
Yeah, indie punk, but not indie punk, I think is a good way to sum that up. But the front bottoms, we'll call it indie punk. Indie punk group from New Jersey. About, I want to say, around the same time that the Wonder Years announced No Closer to Heaven, announced their, I believe, third full-length album that comes out a week from today. Today is Friday, September 11th. And their new album drops Friday, September 18th. It is called Back on Top, and they've released now 3 singles for it, and one of them kind of flew under my radar. It came out on August 14th, and I feel like the reason that flew under my radar is because that's the same day the new full-length Neck Deep album came out. Neck Deep's Life's Not Out to Get You, which is excellent. If you haven't listened to it, I recommend picking it up. But this new song that came out is called Laugh Till I Cry, and it's just a good, like, catchy, just, I can dance to this, I can sing to this song, just about kind of like growing up, and like, you kind of grow out of doing things from when you're younger, and you're just kind of doing your own thing now, but it's still okay, you're still having a good time, and I feel like it's just a really good song, and it got me even more amped for, like, this new album. I'm not, like, the biggest Front Bottoms fan, but I like them a pretty fair amount, and
we're going to see them.
Yeah, we're going to see them in Cleveland on October 30th, and I'm sure we'll have an episode where we review a couple different shows that we're going to in that little time span. But you know, like, they're a good band. This new song that just came out on August 14th, good catchy tune. I highly recommend just checking it out. Like, if you have Spotify, or just hop on YouTube if you have some time. I've been playing it on loop like since I found it. Just driving to work, I listen to it. Sitting at home, it's just good catchy song to listen to. But then last night they dropped a new song called Summer Shandy, which is kind of in the same fashion as the first single that they released for the new album called Help. And I'm not the biggest fan of the song Help. That's why I was really excited about the song Laugh Till I Cry, because it's just a little bit more catchy and like has more like the feel that their EP Rose and their album Talon of the Hawk had. And Summer Shandy's pretty good too. It's kind of got the same vibe as Help, so I don't like it as much as I like Laugh Till I Cry, but I've only listened to that through a couple times since it just dropped last night on September 10th. But both those songs really good. Pretty excited about the new album coming out. I'm sure that we'll probably review that at least a little bit. And I think that's all I have for music. And now I'm going to talk about something that means a lot to me personally, like in my heart, my brain. Album just not this album, but this topic means a lot to me. It's Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And as some of you may know, Friday, September 4th was Force Friday, which was the unveiling of all the new toys and merchandise for the upcoming 7th Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens, that comes out December 18th, 2015. Hold up, I can tell you. I got this. 97 days from today. I am so excited. It's ridiculous, okay? I'm at the point where Star Wars was something I was like, yeah, I love Star Wars. To the point where I went and got a tattoo last weekend after we recorded the first episode of BunzStavi.
It's on our Instagram.
It's on our Instagram. Throw it a like. Comment if you think it's gay as fuck. But anyway, so I'm like at the point, just getting so hyped up for this new movie to come out. Like, there's been 2 like trailers for it. There's a rumored one to come out this Sunday during football games, and I'm just like so excited for it. You know, it's like something I've loved since I was like 7 years old. I'm 18 now, and I get a new Star Wars movie, and it's just like comes out right after my birthday. It's like the greatest gift. But what I wanted to talk to you about, not Force Friday and all the toys that came out, but the new line of books that are coming out for Star Wars called Star Wars: The Journey to the Force Awakens. They are the first books to come out, and the first things that, like, as fans we have that are leading up to the Force Awakens, and that they're canon. They're not just like, oh, this is expanded universe. What if this happened? Because that's kind of what expanded universe is for Star Wars. It's kind of like, what if this happened? But nothing's official. While canon, it's official. Read this shit. It's gonna lead up to the new movie. And that being said, September 4th, the new books that came out. We have 3 standalone books. One's about Han and Chewie. One's about Princess Leia. And one's about Luke Skywalker. And then there's one called Star Wars Aftermath. And that's the one I've gotten to sit down and listen to. I say listen to because at my job, I work at a desk all day for 8 hours. So I have a lot of time to listen to audiobooks and stuff at work. And that's like my preferred choice of entertainment while I'm at work. And not gonna lie, first book to come out for The Force Awakens, and I was a little bit disappointed because, you know, being a fan of Star Wars, there's one thing you want more than anything, and that's the original 3 people from Episode 4, New Hope. That is Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and I guess Chewbacca too. I gotta throw him in there. And this book doesn't really have much of that. It does kind of, it's more kind of follows what happens with the soldiers after Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. They talk about a group of people that kind of come together to save an X-wing pilot from that was on the mission to destroy the Death Star 2 in Return of the Jedi, and they have to come together to do that. And there's like controversy along the way. There's new characters. There's a new character named Nora. She was a pilot that was in the fight on Death Star 2 and Battle Endor. And then there's so many new characters introduced in this book that it was ridiculous. It was like almost difficult to keep track of. Me and my friend Sean listened to this book simultaneously together at work. And there's like so many different characters introduced. And I feel like that's another thing I didn't like about the album, because I wanted those original characters to come back so that I could like be like, yeah, Luke's chopping motherfuckers up with his green ass lightsaber. It's awesome, and like he's saving the galaxy, and he's using the Force, and it's wonderful. But Luke doesn't even make an appearance in the book. He's just kind of mentioned, and so there's some topics along the way. There's Nora, and she kind of left her son back on their home planet to fight with the Rebel Alliance and take down the Empire. And then, they take out the Death Star 2. She goes back to get her son back, and it's been like 3 years, so her son's a little bit more grown up, and he's like, I can do whatever I want, Mom. I don't need you. It's not a phase. And so, but she ends up taking him, and they like have to work together to try and get off this planet, and they get captured, and there's a bunch of other things that go on. There's an ex-imperialist, which an imperialist is somebody that worked for like Darth Vader and Palpatine, and they worked for the Empire. There's an ex-imperialist, and he is like, oh shit, like what am I gonna do now? Like, I'm not a rebel, I'm not an imperialist anymore. I keep just drinking a lot, and so he gets caught up in a situation where he meets up with Nora and her son. I believe his name is Taman, and they work together, and they come together basically to go and rescue Captain Wedge Antilles, I believe is his name. That is also in the original trilogy. They have to rescue him, and there's some other characters introduced along the way, and it was almost difficult to follow, even being like a huge Star Wars geek. But there's a lot of different interludes, there's a lot of different things going on, and I feel like I'm not going to tell you how it ends. I'm not going to tell you what the setup is or anything, what we learn about the new movie from this book. But I do want to mention on a controversy that was like laid on this book, and right after people read it, I'm sure you might have saw something about it somewhere on the internet. The author of the book, Chuck Wendig, with permission from LucasArts and with full support from Disney and LucasArts, decided to introduce an openly gay character into the Star Wars universe. And, there's a lot of controversy popping off about this, because it's like, oh, why can't there be, why is there a gay guy in Star Wars? It's so lame. How upset they are about the new Star Wars, like, having a gay character, and he's a hero in the book, and it's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. And putting like politics into Star Wars. So I heard about that and I figured like, man, there must have been something kind of like racy or something that happens in the book that is like, oh my god, this is gay dude in Star Wars. But here's the thing, people, it's 2015. Like, they can get married now. They're people. They have all the rights that we have. Sorry if you don't agree with that, but it's just the truth. And it's just, it doesn't affect you, It's just something maybe you should be accepting of. If you're not, then that's cool. Do you, whatever. But I'm going to go into a little bit of spoiler alert. So spoiler, blah, 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 whatever. The thing that happens in this book to introduce the fact that this character is gay is that the character that's gay is hit on by a female bounty hunter in the story, and the bounty hunter's like Russian, and she's all like, I find you acceptable, like, well, I can't do a Russian accent, so I'll just say it normally, I guess. But like, I find you more than acceptable to like being like with me after we're done with our mission and everything, after we're done working together. And the way she phrases it, it's like something like, she's kind of weird about it, uses some weird terms, and he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, be my mate or like be my partner or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm just like not into that. And she's like, what, like aliens? Because like she's like, he's human, she's from a different planet, she's a different race. And so she's all offended, like, oh, you racist fuck, you don't like aliens. And so he's like, no, aliens are cool, I'm just not into females. And that's it. That's the controversy that's in this book. He doesn't like make out with a dude. There's not a grotesque sex scene in the middle of a Star Wars book. It's just a dude being like, oh, sorry, I don't dig chicks. And that caught some attention, which is ridiculous. And I'm sorry I talked about that for so long, but I feel like that's just kind of a big thing. And I know this book is called Aftermath. There's supposed to be 2 follow-ups to it that lead up to episode 7. There's also a comic book out called, I believe, Star Wars Shattered Empire. And it takes place right after the Battle of Endor, right after they blow up the Death Star. It's got some cool illustrations in it, and it's got the first comic just came out this week. It's going to be a 4-comic series. And it follows a couple new characters while also like maintaining a relationship with some of the old characters. And it's pretty interesting. I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm also excited to see what these 3 standalone books about Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Luke Skywalker about, along with everything else that's coming up. That's leading up to episode 7, The Force Awakens, out December 18th. I'll plug that every episode because I couldn't be more excited for it. I'm going to throw it over to Buns and our friend Jamie. They're going to talk a little bit about some horror stuff that's coming up.
Okay, so I know it's only the middle of September. Not even the middle of September, but it's coming up on my favorite season of the year, which is the spooky season around Halloween. And there's never a bad time to sit inside under a blanket and watch horror movies. That's kind of an all year round thing. But it really just like tops it off when you're like, when it's like fall and it's a little bit cold out and you can like make some hot chocolate or something. And
hoodie weather.
Just get all spooked.
And just get all spooked. So we just kind of want to take a few minutes here, just kind of, Jamie and I, we're both kind of horror aficionados.
Nice word. Jamie
more than I am. I'm just kind of starting to come up. But just kind of talk about our favorite horror movies just for a little bit, and kind of as a prelude to we're going to have like a real dedicated horror episode, probably around Halloween. And yeah, just kind of talk about our favorite horror movies, and I watched a few over the break on Netflix, just kind of talk about those. I'm going to start this off by saying my favorite horror movie. My favorite is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one that Leatherface is actually scary. The family are not hilarious. They're just scary. And the one where before the chick gets hung on the meat hook, which I'm sure is most of them, but it's just nothing can top the first one. I don't even like the remake. I think the remake is kind of shitty, but
Well, there's
3 or 4 remakes,
Yeah.
but I'm talking like the one.
OG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my favorite. I'm gonna pass it over to Jeremy.
I don't know. I've seen quite a few horror movies in my day, but if I had to pick an absolute favorite, I would probably pick Creepshow, and I'm gonna go ahead and assume nobody's ever fucking heard of that movie. But it came out in the mid '80s. It was Stephen King and George Romero.
We've all heard of it.
Well, yeah, you've all heard. I'm just giving them kind of an insight on it.
Just call me Billy. Everybody does.
That's it.
That's it.
It's like in the format of a comic book, and there's 4 or 5 main stories, and each one is.
It kind of works the same way as like how Pulp Fiction was Pulp Comics. There's like a series of just different stories but they don't tie together. They're just a series of different fun stories.
But it's really like it's really corny, I guess, is like the best way to put it. But for some reason, I just really enjoy it. The first story of the movie I think is the best. Father's Day, and if you get the chance to watch it, I would recommend it highly.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
That's another one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Actually, even the second one, the second Creepshow.
Yeah, the second Creepshow, it's not as good as the first, but it still holds its own. And then Creepshow 3 doesn't exist.
It's
if you tweet or anything at the show and try to tell us it exists, it doesn't. It's fake.
It's fake.
It's made up.
In our mind, that never happened. Okay?
It doesn't exist. It's a fake. It's a fake movie.
It's the worst movie ever that isn't real. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't even exist.
It doesn't exist.
But if it did, it'd be the worst movie I've ever seen. Not exaggerated.
All right, and I was going to kind of just mind my own business for this segment, but I do have a favorite horror movie. I don't get into horror movies like these guys do, and like Halloween comes around, I'm like, let's watch these scary movies. It's a fun time. It's always fun to do. But there's like one movie that, to this day, like I'm 18 years old, and if I watch it, I'm a little bit creeped out, and I feel like I gotta sleep outside my parents' door. And it's not even like a newer movie that's real grotesque and scary. That is the OG 1985 Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's
yeah.
solid.
And the reason that it's that movie is because it's such an excellent concept. And it's like, it was so low budget, you know?
Yeah.
And Wes Craven,
R.I.P.
R.I.P., bruh. Unfortunately lost him just a couple weeks ago. He died of brain cancer. And he was up there, but man, he didn't stop like his whole life. He was awesome, but I'm not going to get into that because Fat Man on Batman, hosted by Kevin Smith, did like a 10-minute segment on him, so you can go listen to that if you want to hear about how great Wes Craven is. But I will talk about the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which was a low-budget idea made into like a great movie that spawned multiple different sequels and a not as successful reboot. But it's just so solid, and it holds up to this day. I think that's like one of those movies, like if you're 14 years old and like you have friends over or something, you know, let's watch a scary movie. That's like the greatest, that was one of the first scary movies I ever saw. It might be the first rated R movie I ever saw. And I remember my mom rented it right around Halloween and we watched it together. And just the concept of like, oh, this guy molested and raped children and the whole town lit him on fire. And they thought that would stop him, but no, he can get you in your dreams.
Fuck.
Robert Englund is a fantastic bad guy.
I met him at Wizard World Ohio Comic Con in 2014, and he was just hilarious. And he's just a nice guy. And he just does a great job with Freddy Krueger. And I think that that movie is it just holds up to this day. Like, you could show that to a 14-year-old, and they might piss themselves over it.
Holy shit, it's terrifying.
They're like, oh my god, it's not safe to sleep.
The part when he's like walking down the alley and he extends his arms and then his arms just get bigger and bigger and like longer.
The way he runs in that part is terrifying.
God.
I honestly think Wes Craven, hands down, is responsible for some of the absolute best horror movies like out there.
Easily.
Scream, People on the Stairs.
Oh shit.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Last House on the Left.
Last House on the
He
Left.
did that.
Hills Have Eyes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But we'll get more into that when we do our full Halloween episode. But yeah, definitely that's got to be my favorite. Just keeping it like original. Just if I had to pick like a more recent one, I'd say like the first Saw movie. Just because the first Saw movie is just suspenseful and intense and really good, and then all the other ones are just gore porn.
Yeah. The first 3 Saw movies are pretty good.
I remember I watched the first 2 and then started watching the third one, and I was like, this is just gross. And then I saw like bits and pieces of all the other ones, and I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like the first Saw is just, I feel like it's a cult classic series of movies, but
the first Saw is so good.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, personal favorite of mine. Definitely, if you haven't seen it and you're above the age of 12, check it out. If you're 12, ask your mom first or whatever. But it's definitely one of my favorites. I definitely recommend it. And it's definitely something that when Halloween comes around, I'm like, yo, we should watch Nightmare on Elm Street.
Blake and I watched it.
Who the fuck is Blake?
Oh, Buns and I, excuse me. Buns and I watched it like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was so mad about that because I was over at your house, and then like the next day I was like, "Hey, what'd you guys do after I left?" And you're like, "Watch Nightmare on Elm Street," and I was like, "I wasn't there. What's wrong with you?" But no, it's definitely a good movie. The reboot's not the greatest. The sequels that were made without Wes Craven aren't the greatest. But
Wes Craven came back though.
Yeah, he did Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which I believe is the 7th one in the series. But
also fantastic.
Robert Englund just killing kids in their sleep is just an excellent thing.
Yeah.
I love to watch every year. Just something. Here's the thing: no other horror movie character scared someone so bad their hair turned gray.
You're right.
True.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Fucking Nancy.
Literally.
Nancy.
She's not in Nancy. Her name is Nancy. All right, why don't we give it back to them? They can talk some more about horror stuff.
Before we kind of get done with this little segment, Jamie and I are going to talk about just our horror movies that we like that are currently on Netflix, so you guys can check them out literally whenever you want if you have Netflix. Over the break, I watched this movie called 13 Sins, which I wouldn't call it a horror. I'd almost call it like an awkward thriller. It's like it starts off awkward and then it gets freaky. It's about a man who is down on his luck. He's recently been fired and he's got a baby on the way, and his dad's like an old racist, and he doesn't have any money. And then all of a sudden somebody calls him and basically tells him to do this little petty shit, and he's gonna give him like $1,000. Like the first one is $1,000 to kill a fly, and he kills the fly and he's automatically deposited $1,000. Well then, it's a thriller, so obviously there's 13 of them, and they progressively get more fucked up as they go along. I'm not going to go into it. The movie itself wasn't like super fantastic, but the twist at the end, which obviously I'm not going to tell you, was crazy. I didn't see it coming.
Does it live up to an M. Night Shyamalan twist?
God, no.
Okay. I wanted to know like where we stand here.
Well, M. Night Shyamalan's had good twists and he's had shitty twists, and I'll say this twist.
Save it for Halloween.
I'll save it for Halloween. The twist in this movie was it doesn't even feel like a Shyamalan twist. But I mean, I'd suggest checking it out. The other one that I watched was called Troll Hunter, which again, not really a horror movie, but it's monsters and it's suspense and it's like the Blair Witch, kinda. It's just about a group of college kids that are wandering in the woods, and they've got their video camera, and they stumble upon just trolls, which doesn't sound scary. In all honesty, it's not like super freaky, but it's like thrilling almost. That one's good. I don't know if They Live is on Netflix, but I watched that over the break, and that was damn good. Roddy Piper, R.I.P.
I know he was in a horror movie.
Yeah, he was in They Live. It's good. It's John Carpenter.
Yeah.
He's in a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, man.
Really?
Yep. And it was good. It was damn good.
The Hot Rod.
Yeah. The Hot Rod.
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
Went to WrestleMania 3
Yeah.
and did like blackface and got shit on hardcore for it. It was in a John Carpenter movie.
Yep. And it was good.
Rest in peace, Rowdy.
Rest in peace, Roddy Piper. And it was.
Should we toll the bell 10 times?
We don't got time for that.
It was definitely good. I don't know if it's on Netflix. Definitely check it out if it is, or if it isn't, we'll pass it over to Jamie for his.
I haven't watched any new movies on Netflix recently, but I know there's some like good older ones on there. Dead Silence is fantastic.
Fuck that, dude.
Same, yeah, it's the same guys that made Saw. That movie, it's fucked.
Listen,
It's fucked.
I take it back. Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't the first rated R movie I saw. Dead Silence was like the first like rated R horror movie I saw, I would say.
Yeah.
And nobody told me what it was about. Like I went over to my friend's house, we sat down, he rented it like on DVD from like Blockbuster and put it in, and I remember like I went home after watching that. It's not even like necessary. I could watch it now and be okay, but it would probably.
I don't know about that.
It would make. I wouldn't be okay, but I wouldn't have to like sleep in my mom's bed when I was 12 years old.
Right.
You know, but yeah, that's scary. If you want to get kind of freaked out, that's a good
watch
one to
that shit by yourself. And
that.
I don't think it's on Netflix, but if you haven't seen The Strangers, holy shit! Stop listening. Go to whatever video store or computer.
But before you do that, retweet this podcast and share it with your friends on Facebook.
Yeah, nice plug. Definitely watch The Strangers. It came out in, I think, 2008. I was about 13 at the time, and I went to the theater and saw it. And I think I shit my pants.
Oh my god.
That movie is terrifying. Other movies on Netflix. The Scream movies are on there. You can't go wrong with them ever.
Wes Craven, R.I.P.
Yeah, man. I don't know. The thing about Netflix is there's like a handful of good horror movies, and then you have a lot of shitty like B horror movies that don't make any sense.
That's one you guys are always talking about, like ABC's of Death.
ABC's of Death. We'll leave that for the next horror episode.
Excellent.
But yeah.
VHS 1 and 2.
VHS 1 and 2 both are fantastic.
3 is bad, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely watch VHS 1 and 2. They're both on Netflix. Other than that, though, I think that pretty much cashes me out. So
we'll come back with more in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
Halloween's coming up. I'm sure I'll have to put myself through hell and watch a bunch of these horror movies and be all scared and sad for a couple weeks. But definitely worth it in the name of BunzStavi. But we've finally gotten through all of our segments. We're pretty proud of ourselves that this episode's going to be over an hour long in comparison to our first one that was 8.5 minutes. If you came back to listen to this one after listening to the first one, thank you so much. And the last thing we're going to touch on before I plug all of our stuff and give a shout out to some other people, we're going to talk about the argument that was posted last week. If you didn't listen to it and you're listening to this one, the argument was, when you make spaghetti, do you crack your noodles in half or do you just throw the noodles into the water and they boil? We didn't say where me and Bunce fell on it, but personally, I'm a normal fucking person. So I prefer to crack my noodles in half and then they boil, and then you curl them on a fork and you eat them. Parmesan on there. Bunce is satanic, so he likes to just throw his noodles in there. But that being said, you can do it either way. If you do it one way, it's okay. If you do it the other way, it's okay. It doesn't really matter, but it's still an interesting concept that I think 2,000 years from now, when people are transporting between Earth and Mars, like to get groceries because they're cheaper at the Kroger on Mars, somebody's going to be in the spaghetti aisle at Kroger Mars, and they're going to be like, hey, do you crack your noodles in half, or do you just boil them? And that person will be like, oh, crack them. And the other person's going to be like, no, just boil them. And then they're going to beat the hell out of each other.
If I can, I'd like to say, if you break your noodles in half, you're right. If you just throw them in the pot, you're probably fucking wrong.
Now, gathering all the information, not a lot of people came out and responded, but we did tweet about it. I posted it on Facebook. I asked some people around. An overwhelming amount of people responded that you crack them in half and then boil them. But there is the exception. My aunt likes to boil them whole. My friends from another podcast called Geekcast X like to just boil them as whole noodles. And I received a video from my friend Sean telling me that he doesn't crack his noodles in half because he eats spaghetti like a man.
He
But
does eat spaghetti like a man.
you stop it.
You
You
tell
are
him
wrong.
that.
Overwhelmingly, the support of the community, the people that I've talked to about it, more people say crack them in half.
My
So Buns, I'm sorry, I don't care. But here's the thing, you're wrong this week.
my own fucking mom turned against me on that one.
That's ridiculous. But yeah, if you crack your noodles in half, you're probably gonna go to heaven. So. But I don't think we have any other topics to talk about this week.
We do have a new argument though.
What is our new argument?
Our new argument is I like tea and Stavi likes coffee. Now it's not as good of an argument as last week's, but we did get in kind of a little minor scuffle about that before this podcast started.
I feel like that's because every time we live in Ohio and we live like in north central Ohio, so we kind of have the luxury of being like right between Cleveland and Columbus, Ohio. So there's a nice mall down in Columbus called the Polaris
Shopping center.
Polaris Shopping Center. It's got a lot of good stores. It has like 3 Starbucks in it, and they have a store called Tivana. I don't know if that's like a chain or
it's a branch of Starbucks, actually.
Is it really?
It is.
I didn't know that. So it's assumingly that is a fun fact. But it's assumingly a chain then, like multiple places have it.
Yeah. There's one in New York. I went there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But you can assume that. They specialize in having tea. Well, Starbucks, I believe, has tea and stuff.
They've got like 2 different types of tea.
But if you go to Starbucks, odds are you're getting like a frappuccino or a mocha or some kind of high caffeinated, sweet Colombian liquid goodness. And every time like we go to this mall, Starbucks and Tivana are right across from each other, and I always go to Starbucks and Buns always goes to Tivana, and so. We don't have as great of an argument this week, but if you had to choose, would you rather have coffee or tea?
Yeah. Let us know for the sake of humanity.
But before we sign off today, I do just want to say you can like our Facebook page at BunzStavi Media. Follow us on Twitter at BunzStavi. You can follow us on Instagram at BunzStavi Media. Subscribe to us on Tumblr. I'm going to have a review for that Star Wars book that we talked about a little bit more in-depth review other than me just talking about gay dudes and Star Wars. But, and there'll be some stuff on there, be a link to the podcast. This episode we're going to put up on YouTube so you can listen to it there. Listen to it on SoundCloud and subscribe to us under BunzStavi Media. If you stop by to listen to it on SoundCloud or YouTube, go ahead and give us a like. If you want to hear me talk more about geeky shit like Star Wars and whether that be movies, books, comic books, or anything else like that, but if you want to hear me talk about Star Wars, superheroes, or any other geeky culture, check out another podcast that I'm featured on called Geekcast X with my friends Sean and Sebastian.
If you want to know a little bit more about Stavi or I, and instead of just hearing us talk or whatever, and just want to know, get like right down to brass tacks, you can follow us, our personal things on Twitter, Instagram. They're both on.
Yeah, add us on Facebook.
Yeah, add us on Facebook. They're all on our bio on Twitter for this BunzStavi Media. Buddy Jamie here. If
you can follow me on Twitter also.
If you found him appealing.
Yeah. Just JamieMB182. Throw me a follow. I'll follow you back. It'll be a good time.
Follow me on Twitter at Starthmaul, StarrThmaul. You can follow me. I'll follow you back. We can talk about the episode, and we can talk about whatever else you want to talk about.
You can follow me at BlakeThomas224 on Twitter. It's the same for Instagram. And yeah, basically the same thing for me. We can talk about movies, music. You can
talk to us.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
But I think that's going to wrap it up for us this week. I'm Stavi.
I'm Buns.
I'm Jamie.
And may the force be with you.